if you wanted to keep going to the finals. But I think they're going to beat the crap out of each other come playoff time. Long series, 5-7 game series to get to the finals, to get past the Eastern Conference Finals and into the NBA Finals. And I think that just plays right into the Warriors' hand. So, no, there's no trade that was more shocking to me than the Porzingis deal. I think the top 4 teams in the East just made things a little bit better for themselves. And now that gets us to the point where we can roll to the end of the year and see if anybody has something for the Warriors.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that all the talk was about the West and how basically bad the East was. And now you've seen Clippers send Harris over, the Grizzlies send Gasol over, and the Pelicans send Mirotic over. So you've had a lot of talent migration from the West to the East. And if you take the Warriors out of the picture and you go the next 4 teams in the West versus the top 4 teams in the East, there's more depth in the West. The bottom of the West is much better than the East. But at the top end, right now, we don't even know who really is the second best team in the West. Is it Denver? Is it OKC? Is it Houston? If the Lakers got their stuff worked out, could they make a run at it? It doesn't feel like there's a consensus number 2 right now, where it feels like there's a clear-cut top 4 in the East by far and away.
Yeah, and I'd say if the Warriors weren't in it for some reason, if there was some kind of injury bug or a shocker that happened, I think I would put my money in a betting lineup on the Bucks or the Raptors to win the NBA Finals over the Nuggets, Thunder, or Blazers.
Oh, if the Warriors weren't in this thing, this would be the craziest playoffs. It would be so open because you have 4 potential that could come out of the East, and who knows who could come out of the West at that point. I mean, you could get potentially a Denver, or if the Rockets get healthy, there's certainly a team that could come out because Harden's basically carried them right now with not a lot of help. I mean, I don't think his man's still been assisted on a basket since like November at this point. Everything is just ISO. I'll just carry you guys and score 30, 35, 40 a night if I have to. But yeah, for me, Eric, that Knicks deal, I still don't get it. I just still don't understand how you have a young player unless Porzingis is just damaged goods on a rookie deal and you have the potential for the first pick in the draft, and you could have probably done something to get rid of Hardaway. The Knicks could have offered somebody a 2021 first round pick and shipped Hardaway out and got a lot of cap room. And then Courtney Lee's deal was much easier to either stretch or dump him down the road for something. And instead, you could have had Zion, Porzingis, and 2 max spots open. And now you have, maybe the first pick, and you're going to try to go ahead and pull a Kevin Durant into the mix. It just feels like I don't know what the Knicks were doing. Obviously, we joked about on the show last week, they made this crazy fast move, but there was conversations and deal structures that were in place long before there was talks. They offered Porzingis to New Orleans, but New Orleans turned it down because they felt like they'd have him 1 year on a qualifying offer. Then he'd be unrestricted and they'd lose him anyways. But it just feels like the Knicks really botched this up just to get cap space. They gave up the biggest asset the franchise has had in years, and a guy that probably could have helped them attract other talent. And you think, I mean, if you're Kevin Durant or you're Kyrie and you see the potential for Porzingis, Zion Williamson, maybe Durant, I mean, you would want to go to the Knicks, and then who cares where their 2021 first round pick is? They're going to be a playoff team. It's not going to be that great anyway. So it just feels like, to me, that's far and away the worst deal I saw.
Well, we're going to need to wrap up the NBA and get to a little bit of Super Bowl talk. But Justin, I've got to ask you, as a guy who looks at the Wizards, you're down in that area.
God,
the Wizards are only a few years removed from being a playoff team that we talked about could surprise some people deep into the playoffs only in 2016, 2015, not that long ago. Now they're not in the playoff hunt in the East, and they just lost John Wall to an Achilles injury when he's already nursing another injury. So now you've probably lost John Wall for about 12 to 15 months. And Achilles injuries, as we talked about in the NBA, it can hurt your explosiveness. We've seen guys come back from them. Kobe Bryant, now Cousins. It can happen. But John Wall, he's a point guard. His game is built on shiftiness, explosiveness, being able to get around the court with his agility. Justin, how bad is it right now in Washington for these Wizards?
Dude, it's a disaster. I mean, there's no other way to put it. This was a team that really thought that they could be in contention to be one of these top 4 teams, to really make a run. Cleveland's out of the mix. They've always had some decent seasons, but Now it's a mess. Otto Porter is gone, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, that was one of the worst deals they could have ever signed, that extension and matching the Nets offer sheet. So they should have just let him go. But the John Wall situation, Eric, it's horrible. It's bad enough the fact this year he's on their books for like $19 million. Then he signed the Supermax, which kicks in next year.
Mm-hmm.
In 22-23, that season, he's still under contract for almost $47 million on a player option. I'm pretty sure he's going to pick that up. He's going to miss next year. That's $37.8 million on the books.
Right.
Then he goes up to 41, almost 44, and then nearly 47. And he's coming off an Achilles injury. Dude, that is a horrible contract. The Wizards are in such bad shape. They're going to have to try to keep Beal and maybe build around him. But this Wall deal, I mean, no one's even going to take that contract.
No.
There's not a team out there that's going to touch that thing. So they are screwed on this deal. And again, that might be the backlash of the Supermax to the fact that it harms a franchise like this. But do you really offer it to a guy like Wall that's not really wanting anything for you? And Satoransky came in last year and they played just as well, even if not better, when Wall was off the court, and then they still give it to him. So this is a team that's in trouble. I mean, they are in trouble, and they're in trouble for a long time. They may get to the point where Beal's the next guy that sort of forces his way out and just says, look, I can't be here with this team. He and Wall don't get along anyway. Of course, Wall's not going to be there for a while, so maybe he can run things with a lot of young guys. But, yeah, I mean, it's bad in Washington. They're in trouble, and they're in trouble for a long time. And a couple years ago, it looked like this franchise was up and coming. I mean, they were going to have 2 stars in the backcourt, and they were going to have potential to sign other guys, and then they just go out and make a bunch of bad moves. They sign Mahinmi to a huge deal. Porter gets all that money, and now they're not even winning games. Really, they're not even being bad enough to tank to get a really good pick. So they're in big-time trouble, Eric. I mean, it's a disaster in Washington. So, yeah, there's not going to be much to watch there for a while. They don't even have a process like Philly. They're just going to suck for a long time until that Wall deal comes off the books.
Yeah, they can't tank bad enough, because as soon as the Knicks catch wind of the Wizards tanking, the Knicks are probably going to, who knows, just stop showing up for games, because that is their strategy.
Yeah, the Knicks have been tanking for a while, it seems. If you watch them offensively, they feel like they've been tanking for a while now.
Yeah, and with shipping Porzingis out, they've got to stick to that strategy. So
they've lost games, and they've lost the tanking as well. So they're a whole kind of awful. But I think that'll wrap us for the NBA. I think we covered a lot of ground there. When we come back, we got to talk about what happened in Super Bowl 53. Not the best game, but we'll talk about the fact that maybe the NFL is at fault here for setting expectations too high. Was the spotlight too big for McVay and golf? And what in the world is up with Todd Gurley? We'll talk about that when we come back. Well, it's talk-worthy time, and time to break down Super Bowl 53. It's weird that the Super Bowl, Eric, got bumped to talk-worthy, but hey, the NBA is where the news is at right now, and frankly, it wasn't that great of a Super Bowl. I think I texted you several times complaining about being bored. Some of that may have been from the standpoint that I had parlayed quite a bit with the over in this game, so the fact that they had 6 points after the third quarter, I knew I was in deep trouble with hitting any of those things, but not a very exciting game from an offensive standpoint. But Eric, I wanted to get your take on this, because it feels like all year with the NFL, all we talked about was these high-scoring games, these high-powered offenses. They go through the regular season. You had the game on Monday Night Football in the middle of the year in the spotlight of the league that they put up 105 points in that game between the Chiefs and the Rams. And then you come to the Super Bowl, and you only get 16 points out of these two teams, where heck, the over-under was set at about 57 in this game, so they fell far short of that and far short of people's expectations. But the fact that the NFL has changed so many rules in the regular season, they have all these high-powered, high-flying offenses that score all these points, is the league basically hurting itself, because the fact that when these teams get to the playoffs, when there's more eyeballs on these games, they're not always the best games, because teams are playing a lot more with the defense and the run game. So the NFL is sort of setting up an expectation where it's never going to be what fans think that it's going to be from what they've seen in the regular season. What do you think about that?
To me, Justin, my reaction to this Super Bowl is that it was incredibly boring. There was a lot of defense played, but to your point, there wasn't a lot of good offense played. Yes, the teams seem to have a completely different coaching approach when they get to a deep playoff run and then into the Super Bowl. I don't know if it's the 2 weeks that they have to prepare and that they're pulling out some different game plans, trying to throw a curveball to the other team, trying to do things that are off film that the other team couldn't study. I'm not sure what it is. The Patriots, they typically don't score a lot of points in any of the 9 Super Bowls that Tom Brady has led them to. They scored a lot of points last year when they lost to the Eagles. Other than that, they typically don't even score a lot of points, whether they win or lose the Super Bowl appearance. Here they score 13 points total, and that was from 10 points in the fourth quarter. Even the Rams couldn't put up points against this Patriots defense. So when we look at that and we say the NFL certainly set itself up, you have Patrick Mahomes winning the MVP with 50 touchdown passes, lighting the world on fire. You've got guys like Jared Goff and Drew Brees and others who have a lot of passing yards throughout the regular season. Even Tom Brady had a good regular season, and you seem to see a lot of points being scored. Then you get into this Super Bowl, and both quarterbacks combined for no touchdown throws. None. Zero. Zilch. It's not what you would expect. So, Justin, yeah, I think the NFL does set themselves up a little bit, especially setting the over at 57. I didn't bet, but I don't think I would have taken the over anyway.
Well, thanks a lot.
It's Super Bowl time. You just don't see, sorry about that. You just don't see the Chiefs and the Patriots. You just don't see the Chiefs and the Rams like they did in the regular season, combining for 100+ points. That just doesn't happen in Super Bowls lately. And yeah, so I think the fans and their expectations maybe kind of getting disappointed a little bit there. And this one, it was highly disappointing to me as far as entertainment value.
Well, I think last year was 41-33?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
So it was high. I mean, and even coming off of the playoff rounds where you saw what the Patriots did, scoring 38, they gave up 31. It felt like the Rams were sort of in that same breath of the Chiefs, of a team that could put up points, and the secondary for the Patriots had moments of struggle. But yeah, I think this is part of the problem, and I think it's something that the NFL needs to work with a lot of their TV partners, their analysts, to sort of put this out there, that to really make the point that, okay, the offenses are great in the regular season, about the fact, and we just don't have the platform to get it out there. But we talked about a team like Dallas, that if they could get into the playoffs, they probably could at least win a game because they can run the football and they play defense. And when it gets to December and you're playing in cold weather and you start to play better competition, the scores generally come down some. The Chiefs and the Patriots were teams that just felt like they just didn't have the defenses to match up with the offenses. And that's where my mistake was on this game, because I really felt like you had McVay, from his standpoint, as just the coaching knowledge was all on the offensive side of the ball. And then you've got the brilliance of Belichick and what McDaniels has done on the Patriots side of the ball, that they could sort of overwhelm the defense, that they could just throw so many different wrinkles at them. They just wouldn't be able to stop them and get consistent stops throughout this game, and that some points would get scored. But the fact is, Eric, I just felt like both offenses were just extremely conservative in this game. Like, nobody really wanted to make a mistake. Nobody wanted to really take a shot. Again, it felt like Brady threw that interception on the first drive, similar to what we saw Breeze do in a playoff game. And it felt like the offense is just sort of, okay, we're not going to do a lot. And really, Brady did all his damage, it felt like, with Edelman. And I don't know if the Chargers and the Chiefs and the Rams all watched the same film or didn't watch any film, but not a damn one of them, Eric, stopped Edelman at all in any of the games that they played.
I don't understand that at all either. That, to me, there's a couple of mysteries that come out of this game. And one of them is certainly the fact that Julian Edelman, even at his size, and you just know that he's going to be the guy. I mean, Amendola's not there. Welker's not there. James White only caught one ball for 5 yards, that's an anomaly for the Patriots. Meanwhile, Edelman gets 10 catches for 141 yards. Even Gronkowski did his damage, but Hogan didn't have anything going on. Some of our X factors like Cordarrelle Patterson didn't have a lot going on. Rex Burkhead only had 15 receiving yards. That's a guy I said would be an X factor. There was nothing there other than Gronkowski and Edelman. So if you're the Rams and you let Edelman go for 141 yards on you, how do you expect to win when they just do whatever they want? If Tom Brady was going to throw the ball in that game, he was looking in two different directions, Edelman and Gronkowski, and they couldn't shut him down. So to me, that's a big problem. But Justin, the thing that I said was one of the keys to victory for the Rams, as you recall, was that line had to get to Brady early and often, and they had to get him on the ground. Justin, they had 1 sack for 9 yards on